Hey everyone, Dylan of Harmonic Design here again. It's a cold winter day here in Southern Ontario, and honestly, I've been just kind of overworked and overstressed. So I thought I would take a bit of a break to do something fun and creative. And so here I am making another video. What we're going to be doing today is actually kind of doing a just a vanilla JavaScript recreation of a fun little kind of word puzzle game called Wordle. If you've never heard of Wordle before, it's been kind of going semi-viral on, especially on Twitter lately. And think of it as like that mastermind game. If you ever played, or if you're an amateur programmer, you probably had like assignment to make your own version of Mastermind. It's basically just a much better version of that using words instead of color coded, I guess. It's a lot of fun, and I thought it could be a fun project to take a look at. So I'm just going to switch the screen here, and there we go. So this is what Wordle is. This isn't my version. This is kind of like the main version of Wordle, but it's to give you an idea here. So you have these rows of 5 tiles. What you have to do is you have to enter a word. It has to be a real 5-letter word. So I can't just, use random letters. It has to be a real word. So if I try to enter, it just says, not in word list because it's got like a dictionary. And what you do is when you think of like a real word, like if I type in, I don't know, brain, it checks them. So, and it'll let you know. So for instance, B, R, A, and I aren't in, it's kind of like hangman, you only get so many chances. N is in the word, but it's not in this position. So we know that this isn't an N, but this could be an N, or this could be an N, or this could be an N. So we could do another, like, I don't know. Okay, so we know that there's a T and there's an N. We know that this isn't an N. We know that this, so one of these 3 letters has to be an N. So you get the idea, and you keep going through, and hopefully you unlock and get more clues as you go. And hopefully you'll figure out what the real word is at the end of this. So this is what the the official sort of game is, and we're going to be doing something very similar. The design's probably going to be different. This is just going to be like a simple mock-up of it. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game, and I'm excited to try and figure out how to get something like this working. So I guess let me close this browser. We don't want that. So I guess the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need an index.html file. We're going to need a JavaScript file, and we're going to need a style sheet. So let's just open that up. I'm just going to open it up in code, VS Code. But I mean, feel free to use obviously whatever editor you want. So here's my kind of default HTML file. We actually don't need a class name for home. Let's just call it Wordle. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. We're just importing the style sheet, we're importing the JavaScript file, and so far that's it. Right now the JavaScript file is actually empty. And here we have the style sheet. This isn't a WordPress theme, so I can delete that. We can delete that. Let's go for a dark theme. Let's make the background dark. So we'll reverse the theme of the default. So there we go. So this is a pretty straightforward, simple, style sheet just for now, just to get us started and just to get us going. So now what we need to do now is we need to actually write the basic HTML, the markup, so that we have the elements on the screen where we need them. And by the way, just to be clear, this is literally all going to be vanilla JavaScript. I would be surprised if the JavaScript ended up being much more than like 100 lines of code. I would imagine this would be a pretty simple, straightforward. We're not using React or anything like that. We're just going bare bones, keep it simple. So I guess the first thing we need is we need a main div. Then we need 2 sections. So this top, actually let's give it an ID. So this will be like, so basically everything, all of our HTML markup will be inside this main div called Wordle. This first section will be what do we call it? I don't know, board. I'm not really sure what to call that section, but the top section where the words will actually appear, like where all the rows are. And this bottom section, we'll call it keyboard. Sure. Nah, because that's like board and keyboard. Let's call it letters. So this is where like but this will be like where our like keyboard is, where we can actually select the individual letters. Inside of board, we're going to have different rows. And you know what? I probably should have looked this up. How many rows do we have in Wordle? Let's open that up again. Switch over. So we have so we have 6 rows. Okay. So we have 6 rows there. So we're going to want different classes. So let's go div class row. And then each row is going to have 5 letters. So we'll go div class equals, we'll call it space, I guess. Yeah, no, we'll call it tile. Div class equals tile, and we're going to have 5 of them. So 5 tiles. And then so we're going to have 6 rows, each row with 5 tiles. And by the way, I could just do like a JavaScript loop and import this in, but I mean, this is relatively low, so it's like let's just add it right here into the HTML. So good, we got 6 rows, 5 tiles in each row, fantastic. And now here for the letters, we're going to need, we're going to need a div for each letter. And you know what, we're also going to need 2 more after that. We're going to need one for enter and one for like a backspace to like clear out or delete whatever the last letter is. Oops. So I think I did that right. Ugh, this is going to be annoying, isn't it? Yeah, this is annoying. I'm not sure if I'm just going to upload this to YouTube Raw, whether I'm going to edit it, but if I edit it, I'll just I'll fast forward this section. I also want to bring up that you'll notice that I'm using divs here instead of buttons, which obviously isn't the best for like accessibility standards and screen readers and stuff like that. So like, you know, I'm not going to do it for this video right now. I'm just trying to get this, you know, semantics and the logic of the actual game down. But you would definitely want to either use these as actual literal buttons, or at the very least do like an area role equals button, and maybe even do like a tab index or something like that. So that's like keyboard navigatable, and do like a, you know, an on key up event listener for space to select it. Just something like that. How do I want to do a, should I just do like a, that, or maybe, oh, maybe we can use an emoji or something. Let's use an emoji. What would be a good one? Maybe a trash can? Waste basket. Sure. Screw it. There we go. I guess now is a good time to open up our document here. So here, oops, here is our incredibly ugly, here's our incredibly ugly site so far. This looks like ass, but we're going to make this look a lot nicer, hopefully very soon. So let's go back to our markup. So this is basically the entirety of the HTML. This is the entire HTML file. I don't think we actually need anything else. Yeah, I can't really imagine why we need anything else. So I guess let's start with styling it now. Let's actually add some styles here. So the first thing we're going to want to do is the actual, like the main Wordle thing. We're going to want to position it. So we're going to, we're doing the main div here. We're styling this main div. So we're going to want to, I guess let's just do it. Let's go hog on display grid. And we're going to want to go grid template rows. And we're going to go to 3FR, 1FR. So what this essentially does is think of it as like breaking the main div here into 4 quadrants. The top row will be getting, 3/4 of it. And the last row will get just 1/4 of it. And on that, let's go like a minimum height. Let's let's go like 600 pixels. We'll say max heights 100 VH. So VH stands for like vertical height of the screen. So we're basically saying, you know, the main div can't exceed a height of the entire screen. We'll say width will be 100%, but we'll set a max width of like, I don't know, 500 pixels, something like that. So now what we need to do is we need to, what do we need to do? I guess we need a grid gap. You know what, let's use a CSS variable here. So I'm using a variable called gap, and let's actually add a the variable here. I know that a lot of people say that, you know, they don't really like the root here. You know, they'd rather just put it into like the body tag or something like that. Personally, I don't think it really matters. So the reason I'm using a CSS variable here is that I can keep referencing it for other, to make sure that the gaps in the spacing for all the other divs are equal. And instead of needing, if I change my mind, if I decide, oh, you know, I don't want it to be 12 pixels, I want it to be 20 pixels, or I want it to be an EM, an REM, you know, I don't need to go and edit it in every place. I just need to edit it once here, and that'll kind of propagate throughout the rest of them. So that's why I decided to do that. So what do we need here now? We need, I guess we need to kind of like center it. So let's go margin. So let's go like, I don't know, 4 REM in auto. So this will center it horizontally and add a 4 REM margin to the top. So this won't center vertically, but generally speaking, I feel like we want the weight of the thing to be on the top side, just because I feel like that's where the eye naturally goes, especially for this. It's like the top is where the word is, that's what you're actually studying, and the bottom is going to be like the kind of keyboard. So I kind of want the whole weight of the visual weight to be lifted farther up. So let's go take a look at what this looks like now. Helps if I switch the screen. So this is what this looks like now. So as you can see, it's like actually centered with that padding, but obviously this part here still looks terrible. But it's to give you an idea of like what this looks like. So so you might be wondering, if I gave it here, so you can see the grid template rows, 3 FR, 1 FR, and yet you can see doesn't quite work out that way, does it? And the reason for that is because this one, the FR doesn't really, it's not like an exact, it's not like I'm doing, you know, 33, or I guess 66%, 33% or something like that. The FR is a different unit. It basically, I think it stands for fractal or something like that. But the way that I like to think of it is free space. So 3 free space, 1 free space. But since this since this letters div's just currently taking up so much freaking space, you know, it's 1 free space is allotting it for more, but that'll be fixed once we go and do the CSS for the actual letters here. So it's actually, you know, let's actually do that now. Let's get that out of the way. Let's do that now just so that it looks better and we don't have to keep freaking out about it. So we'll go letters. We'll also display this grid. We'll go grid, template, columns. And now I'm going to do something a bit special here. I'm going to do a min-max, 1 pixel, 1 FR. And the reason for this is just to ensure that each column is of equal distance. It won't actually, to be honest, I don't think it'll matter at all for this example, because each letter is generally speaking the same width anyways. We're only using 1 letter. But this is stupidly useful if, for instance, actually, you know, here we have enter, right? I mean, this takes up more room than the others. So by having the min-max here, it just kind of forces a more equal positioning. It basically, the issue we had here, we're kind of forcing a fix for that here. So how many columns do we want? Well, how many are on the keyboard? We got 3, 6, 9, 10. So we'll do 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the one downside to doing it this way, is that you can't do like the repeat. So let's just go back here. And we can see here that they're actually in a nice row, but we're not quite done yet because this enter key is, you know, taken. Because remember, we're forcing them all to be the same space. So see how like enter is still there? So now what we need to do is we need to kind of figure out a way to do that. So let's actually do a custom. We'll go class enter, class delete. So how about Did I give them? Okay, good. I gave them HA. So we'll do here. We'll go enter. And we'll go grid column span 3. And that should actually perfect. So now enter is taking up more space here. So now what we need to do is we just need to like kind of center and position these. So to do that, I'm actually just going to do, let's just do flex. I feel like flex is the best way to do this. There we go. Now each one's actually properly centered. Dope. This looks great. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with that. Let's just go do some more quick scaling. So let's do a cursor pointer just so that users know that this is a selectable element. We'll do, we'll give it a background color of black. Okay, and remember that grid gap I was talking about? We're going to need to do that here too. And let's go take a look at that. Nice. Yeah, that's simple and clean. I mean, I know that the original Wordle has it in like the QWERTY format, and I went for alphabetical here. That doesn't really matter though. The point is that it looks good and it works. So now what we need to do is we need to so we got the letters here pretty much good. Now we need to do the actual board itself. So we need to do these rows. So let's go back here. Let's start with the rows. So what did I call? I called it board. Display grid. We're gonna go grid template rows. We'll actually want to do the min max here as well to make sure that it's always the same regardless of what's in there. And we're going to do how many rows? It was 6 rows, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's good. And then inside the rows we have the tiles. So we're going to want to go to row. We're going to go display grid. By the way, I know a lot of this you could also use Flexbox, but I don't know. I like grid. It's fun. And we're going to go grid template columns, and we're going to do the min max. 1 pixel, 1 far, and I believe it was 5. Yeah, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just quick to make sure this is working. There we go. So you can see we got 5 rows, and each row is divided into 5 columns. Fantastic. And now we're also going to want to add that grid gap. Because for instance, what I want to do is, so let's just show you. Background color black. Ugh. Right, so see how it's just like a giant square there now? I don't want the square, I want the actual individual things to be black. So let's go and do the grid gap. Let's actually do it here. So now the rows are actually gapped. And now we need to do the, oops, what did I just do? I just accidentally closed it. Yep, so the rows, so now we need to do, I think I called it space. I called it space, right? Apparently did not call it space. Oh, I called it tile. I'm just gonna, there we go. So now we have the tiles here and stuff like that. Now, one thing I don't like is, I don't like how they're rectangles instead of like, they seem too wide. So let's see if we can fix that right now, because I don't like how that looks. So what was it called? Board? So let's do board. So let's set the board to a max width of 400. And then we're going to need to center it. So justify self-center. Okay, so that actually did work. It's just I set a max width, but I didn't actually. Now I need to make it fill the available space. So set it width 100. There we go. I don't. Yeah, that just looks nicer and cleaner to me, at least at least to my eye. I don't know. It's what I like about web dev. I mean, if you guys don't like it, I mean, if you want it to be wider, if you don't like the kind of how like this is smaller, I mean, change it to whatever you like, right? That's what's good about it. It's nice and easy. So I think this is pretty much it for the HTML. That's it for the CSS. We have everything kind of set up. Now it's time for the fun part, the actual JavaScript. So let's get into this now. This is where the good stuff happens. This is where the good stuff happens. So here we are on the JavaScript file. Let me check my OBS. Okay, good. It's on the right file. So let's make a constant called $. So this is basically just an object where, well, it helps if I use an equals. So this is basically just an object, and we're going to contain our entire program inside of this object. So I'm going to create a function inside this object called init. And we'll console log out, we'll console out. And let's actually run that function. Cool. So just to go back to the game itself and reload, and you can see the console log Wordle. Let's go back to our code here. Okay, so now what we need is we need variables. So this is where we're going to store some global variables. So we're going to need to store what row we're on. We're going to need to store what letter we're on, like what letter in the row, or no, we'll call it space. Yeah, we'll call it space. So what space we're on, we're going to need to store the word. Let's use let's just use. Actually, you know what? Let's do this as an array. I feel like this would be easier as an array. Excuse me. So this is how we're going to keep track of everything here. Yeah, there isn't really like a score or a timer in the game, so I think this is all we need. I'm not seeing anything else we need. And now we need so once we initiate the game, we need to kind of set the row as active, because like when I select a letter, I don't want it to like type here. I want it to only type in the first row until that first row is complete. So what we need is we need a kind of set row function. So I'm going to go just set row. And now we're going to create that function. And we're going to increase the row by 1. So as soon as this runs, row is going to be worth 1, and we're going to use that to set the row. But first we need to determine, like, I guess first we need to check to see whether any rows are currently active, because let's for simplicity, let's assume that this first row is active, right? Actually, you know what? We need to do one more thing. There actually is some more CSS. So I'm actually just going to go in and I'm going to manually set this row to, I don't know, active row. And then where's row? We'll go dot active row border color. I don't know. Let's just do white or something. Let's check that out. Oh wait, of course I didn't actually set a border 1 pixel solid transparent. So we're setting a transparent border row here. And let's do transition. So I just set a transition so that hopefully the border row should animate when we activate and deactivate rows. So what we've done is we initially set a 1 pixel border but make it transparent. But if the row is active, then it goes from being transparent to being white. Now this isn't going to animate here on the first one, but you can see we now have a row here. This actually brings up another issue. I'm actually going to add in a padding to the rows. Actually, let's use the gutter. There we go. So we now have a bit of padding around the row. Just makes it look nicer. But now we got that. We unfortunately have that bad. Yeah, I'm not liking the padding or spacing here anymore. So I added in the padding gap here, but I no longer like the gap here. Maybe, I actually don't know if I can do this. Can I do that? Cool, you can. So you learn something new every day. So what I did is I split the vertical gap, or the grid gap. Yeah, so basically the vertical gap between these rows by 1 to offset the extra padding I added by this border. So that just looks, this looks a 1,000 times better now. That looks really cool. Okay, that's awesome. I love that. So let's go back to here and just remove this active row because we don't want to, I mean, but we absolutely could just default it as that. But I want to do everything here from the JavaScript. So now that we got that, we want to basically remove any, because we like right now, I mean, we doing this video, we know that the first row is active, or should be the active one, but I want this function to work no matter where we are. I want it to work if we're on the 4th row. I want it to work if we're on the last row. I want it to work if there are no rows. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to try to find the active row. So document.getElements, what did I think I just called it active row, didn't I? So so active now will contain a list of every single row that's active. But there should only be ever one active row. I should be able to just say this, you know, just to be, because there should only ever be one. But the thing is the way that I'm going to do it through a loop instead. And the loop accomplishes two things. A, it's kind of like built-in error handling. Since right now, for instance, if I were to refresh this page, there is no active, right? So if I were to do this, it would return undefined. But by doing it this way through a loop, we don't need to worry about undefined. It's always going to work. Second thing it'll do is like, it'll just save us if, I don't know, maybe I'll screw up my logic later on and I'll forget to deactivate the active row or something like that. This just guarantees that we're kind of always going from a fresh slate. And then lastly, it helps minimize kind of DOM manipulation if someone wants to go into the console here and start manipulating the DOM to custom set things to active, right? Like someone could do this, right? And now this is the active row. So what we're doing is we're kind of helping to mitigate stuff like that. I mean, obviously DOM manipulation is a thing. We're just trying to, just trust me, this is better. So I'm just going to loop through this for let I equals 0 while I is less than active.length I plus plus. And what I'm just, oh, actually, I don't need to do a for loop. A while loop is better. While active.length is greater than 0. Active 0 dot classless dot remove active row. So there we go. We've removed any active rows, so we don't need to worry about active rows now. So this will work whether this is the first row, the last row, whether the game's just started and there isn't even an active row yet. This will work across the board in any situation. So now that we do that, now we need to actually figure out what the active row is. So remember, we started off by kind of increasing the row number by 1. So even though we're starting at 0, I'm trying to think, like, should I set this to like -1? Yeah, you know what? Let's just set it to -1. I was gonna do like some crazy thing, like, well, not crazy, but I was just gonna be like, you know, row I -1 type thing. But we actually, if I just set it to this, I mean, this will work. So let's just do that. Let's just set that to -1. That way it offsets the plus on the initial. So now that we got set row, now we need to figure out what the actual like rows are. So actually, I guess the first thing we need, so how many, there were 6 rows, right? So we need to check to see like, are there even extra rows? So let's go if .vars.row is greater than 5. Yeah, if it's greater than 5, because we're starting at -0, so 6 rows, then return. Basically, we don't have any more rows left. You've run out of rows. So we'll just send a console log just to simplify, and we'll just say game over, man. So if the rows isn't greater than 5, so if it's not 6 or whatever, then we can continue on with the logic here. So now we need to figure out what the selected row should be. So const row equals document.get elements.class name row, and then we're going to basically do. So because I did this -1 here, I can just do this. If I were to actually set this to 0, then I would just have to do -1 here. So it doesn't really, I'm just going to do it this way. This is the way that I think is more common. I think more people just think in these terms. So I'm just going to go, so it's the rows -1, since this is going to be currently active to 0, but the actual index value that we're looking for is 0. We're trying to find the array 0 index, not the array 1 index. So that's why I'm doing it this way. So I'm going row.classlist.add active row. So it's actually, I'm pretty sure this will work. So let's just check that out. And there we go. First row has automatically been activated. And by the way, if I do something like, see? Yeah, perfect. It worked. Game over, man. Success. This is working great so far. Okay, that's awesome. So now what we need to do is we need to set the letter. How are we going to do this? You know what? So we're going to need, let's do it up here. So we need to do const letters equals document dot get elements by class name, and I think I just called it letter. Pretty sure I just called them. Yep, just letter. Now we need to loop through it to set an event listener. What should I set it to? Let's do set letter. I mean, I use set row. Let's use set letter. Yeah, okay. Let's just do a quick test to make sure that we got this working. Set letter is not defined. Oh, forgot a period. There we go. And it's not working. Why is this not working? I'm actually a little confused at this. Let's go check. I'm just doing console log some stuff out. Okay, yeah, so that's 100% working. Yeah, that's 100% working. So what am I missing here? There's always little things that get you every single time, no matter what, except for this time I'm honestly not sure what I'm screwing up here. I mean, what if I just run it? Like, what if I just run it like a function? Okay, so that works. What if I run the function from here? Okay, that works. So then why can't I just run it directly? What the now it works? Okay, what did I let's go back to here. What did I have different? So this is what I had before and it's saying no good. This is what I have now and it's saying fine. Oh my god. Oh, see oh, no. It's always something stupid. Every single time. It's something stupid. Yeah, so it was just the camel casing. I had it uppercase here and not there, and ugh. Yay, it works. Okay. So now we got that working. So I guess what we need to do now is we need to figure out what the actual letter is. So we'll do const L equals this dot inner text. We're doing inner text instead of inner HTML because it's slightly more secure. I mean, we're not really focusing too heavily on security in this. It's just the kind of logic through here, but the little things matter, right? So now we need to figure out what the row is. So we're gonna go const row equals document dot get elements by class name. I think I just called it row, and then we're gonna need to do I can literally just copy this. It's the exact same as this. So we're getting what the current row is. And then now we need to get the spaces. We need to figure out what the spaces are. So we need to figure out what the current active space is. So we're going to go row.get elements by class name. Actually, I didn't call it space. I called it tile, didn't I? And we're going to go $.vars. Okay, well, there I called it space, but I'm going to call it tile here. Consistency in titling. By the way, I'm getting an error here somewhere, so I screwed something else up. Oh, I think I just accidentally deleted a bracket there. Okay, so just to show you, so I'm going to console these out, just so you can see what they, make sure that it's working. Why am I struggling? As soon as I start recording, I struggle to type. I promise I'm not this bad at typing, despite what the camera says. Let's just go through here. So if I type in G, it says G. Oh. I put row in. There we go. So yep, it says I. It's got the active row and it's got the active tile. Fantastic. So now we need to actually do the logic of actually comparing. So I guess what we need to do is we need to determine, I guess the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we're not pressing enter or trash. So let's actually grab that emoji again. So we can say if L does not equal enter and L does not equal the trash can, do something else. So now this will be, like so for here so in here we know that someone pressed a letter and we need to now validate. We need to check, okay, well, Are we even able to add a letter? Should we add a letter? Are we at the end of the row? Like, we need to figure that logic out now. I am on the right screen, right? All right. I'm on the wrong screen apparently. Sorry about that. So what I just did is like if L equals enter or the trash can to know like which letter we're trying to do here. So for this we'll go so I guess we need to figure out what tile we're on. So we need to make sure that we haven't used all of our tiles. So we're going to go if $var.tile is greater than 4, then we can return don't do anything. And let's just set a console warning. And at the end, we'll actually want to go $.vars.tile++. So we'll want to increase the total of tiles, assuming that it's possible. So yeah, so if we're out of tiles, then we can continue. And I guess we can just do tile.inner text equals L. This should work. Yay! Whoa! Ooh, that looks bad. I thought I had that. Oh, you know what it is? See, I did it here, but I didn't do it for the tiles. So let's actually do the tiles as well, so that it's a bit nicer and centered. Looks better, but I don't know what happened to the other tiles. Okay, so it looks like it's a height issue. I can never frickin' remember what it is. So we don't want to align self because that sets it to. So I guess align items. There we go. It's just align items. And I should probably do the same for here. I think the only reason it actually worked for the letter is because they all had content, so it was fine. Yeah, that's better now. Yeah, see, it won't let me add any more. Instead of getting an error, it's just saying add tiles. Perfect. So now that we've done that, we're going to want to go in and we're going to want to do the same, but for backspace. So we're going to want to go if L equals backspace. Oh, and we're going to want to make sure that the actually, I'm going to say what's greater. There we go. So if you press the garbage can and the tile that we're currently on any space greater than the first space, then we can actually go back and delete a space. So what we can actually do is we can do this. We can say var.tile negative to remove a variable. And then what we can do here is we can say well, I'm just trying to think of like what the cleanest way to be would. I guess we can actually just grab it directly, can't we? We can just grab it directly. Oop, didn't work. Not working. Oh, because I said if it doesn't equal, we don't want it, we want it to equal. Yay. Yep, and it won't let us delete anymore, and we can still continue. Fantastic. All right, all right, all right. We're getting somewhere. So now we need to do the submit. Else if. So now we want to go with L equals enter. And dot vares dot tile equals 4, or do we want 5? 4. No, 5. Yeah, 5, because we're already increased it by 1. So if we press enter and we've used up all of our tiles, then we want to basically submit. So now we do a submit function. So for the submit function, we're going to need to do a bunch of things here. We're going to need to, I guess what we need to do is we need to figure out, so we need to figure out what letters we selected that are correct. That's basically it. We just need to figure out what letters. So I guess the first thing we need to do is we're going to need to get the current row again. I'm trying to think, do we need to? No. So I guess we'll get the current row again. We'll then, we'll actually do the same for the tile. Actually, no, we're going to want all of the tiles. So let's just test this. Console.log tile. So I pressed enter and it's checking, and yep, okay, good. We got all the tiles. So now we're going to want to basically grab the data of those tiles. So we'll go let letters equal an empty array. And we're going to want to loop through this. So we're going to go for let I equal 0, I is less than tiles.length, I plus plus. And we're going to go letters.push tiles I dot inner text. Okay, so we now have an array that contains the list of all of the letters in order that they were on that, and what we can do is we can compare them. But we can't just do if letters equals we can't just do this, even though they actually would be equal. I mean, assuming we got it perfect, they wouldn't actually. I can't actually do this because arrays because they're JavaScript fuckery basically. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to stringify. We're going to use JSON. So we're going to use JSON actually. So what we're doing is we're turning each array into a JSON string, and then we're comparing just the literal strings against each other. So that'll allow us to compare. So basically, if this is true, then congrats, we won the game. Congrats, you're well done. And then I guess we'll want to return. You know what? We can go row.classlist.add success. Let's go and add a .row.success border color green. You know what? We'll also want to go row.classlist.remove Octave Row. So let's go check this out. Let's see if this works. So if I just do like a bunch of G's. Oh, because I didn't do the logic to go to the next. Okay, so assuming that it's not the perfect, we need to now go to the next row. So to do that, we'll reset the letter we're on. No, space what the hell did I call it? Tile space? Don't know why I keep forgetting that. And we're going to go dot, what did I say? Set row. Good, so enter doesn't work, that works, okay. Sweet. Now if I type in brain, could I remember what I set the word to? Nice. Oh yeah, I see. We're pretty close here. We almost have the game here. This is almost the game. What we need to do now is we need to basically verify individual stuff now. Meh. Sorry, I just got an email. So we need to basically so right now we're only checking to see like, did you get the exact word? Now we need to basically check the individual letters themselves. So let's actually go back into here. It turns out I screwed up. We actually do need some more here. So for instance, I'm going to go tile dot almost. I'm going to go border color tomato. I'm actually border 1 pixel solid transparent, basically the exact same thing as before. So tile dot almost and tile dot correct. So there we go. So this will be how we'll distinguish between those two states. Incorrect, we'll just leave blank. So now what we need to do is I guess we'll create two functions. We'll call function check exists. And we'll do function check exact. You know what, let's make these asynchronous. This way we can guarantee they're all in the right order. So for this first one, we're basically just going to check to see like, hey, does the letter even exist? So for let I equal 0, I is less than letters dot length, I plus plus, and we'll say if fares dot word dot includes letters I, then we know it exists. So okay, this is great. Because everything's in the same order and positioning, we can actually just do this. We can just go tiles I dot class list dot remove, just in case it has the almost, we'll remove it, but then we'll add I think I called it correct, right? So let's go test this out. Oh wait, I need to make this function, the submit function, asynchronous as well. There we go. So for instance, if I do I don't know, SRBHH or something like that. Oh right, duh. I screwed up. It's the actual, I need to reverse these because it's not correct. It's just almost correct. There we go. So here we go. We can see that B and R are part of the world, but they're currently in the wrong position. So now when we check that, we need to check to see whether it's in the right position. So for that, we'll do another for loop. And we'll basically just say if letters I equals, oops. And then we'll basically do the exact same here, except in reverse. So we'll say remove, almost, add, correct. This is pretty much the game. Let's play through it and test. So let's just try to do like a normal game. Let's do books. And okay, well we got the B in the right position. So let's do instead of brain, let's do like Brian. And here we go. It's saying that the B's in the right position, the R's in the right position, and the N's in the right position. But it's telling me that these two are in the wrong position. Brain, success. Highlighted the whole thing. Congrats, well done. There we go. That's the whole game. So I guess a few things to go over, just like kind of, now that we kind of got the main logic of the game here and everything's kind of working more or less, what are some things that we could do better? So I guess some things that we could do better is accessibility standards. So for instance, instead of using these as divs, we could use them as literal buttons, or like I said, better ARIA controls and maybe some like keyboard navigation, setting title attributes, stuff like that, to make it more accessible so that it can be used by screen readers or even keyboard navigated. We could do, better kind of visual feedback. For instance, so one thing we don't have a dictionary at all. And how would we do a dictionary? Because like right now I can literally make up a word. I can be like, this, and it'll accept it. It's not supposed to accept that though. It's only supposed to accept the real words. So we're going to need some kind of dictionary. So I'm just trying to think of like, I guess there's two ways we could do it. We'd either download like a local dictionary, or we could just run the dictionary on the server. I don't really like the idea of either of those, because a local dictionary could potentially be large. I don't really know how big a dictionary is, but having to download and parse through that data for like every single client seems excessive. But then the server one's even worse. Like every time someone presses enter, even if it's not a valid word, it needs to ping the server, ask the server, is this a real valid word? Server responds yes or no. You now got this whole server side thing to deal with. You got slowdowns. Like if the server's being slow, you need to write user interface to let the user know that like, hey, chill, we're checking. You got to wait for a response here. I think the server idea is the worst of the ideas. You know what could be interesting? Maybe I think browsers have like native spell check, right? Maybe there's a way we can hook into that to basically just use the browser spell checker to check a word. We can be like, hey, Chromium, is this word validate your spell check? It does. Great. We're going to assume it's a valid word. Problem with that though is inconsistencies. Like what if like this dictionary, like this game's in English, but what if someone's in a different language, or their computer's set to like French, or the difference between Canadian and American spellings, or British and American spellings? Maybe some kind of hybrid. I'm just spitballing. Maybe some hybrid. Like if you're using US American language with a compatible browser, then we'll just use that. And if you don't have that, like maybe you're using Spanish language or something else, then we'll revert back to like a downloaded local dictionary. I don't know. I never once took a look at the way that the original Wordle site did things. I kind of want to just build this out in a vacuum. So I'm not really sure, how that works or where that comes from, but I don't know. It's an interesting idea and how many different ways you could potentially go about solving that issue. Other than that, the only thing I can really think of is that the original Wordle keeps track of your success. It'll tell you like how many attempts it took you to get the answer, and like every day it's a new word. So yeah, we want some kind of way to maybe we could have like a save to local storage to track like how many successes you've had. Maybe word, instead of just being one word, we could have an array, like a giant array of like 100 words. Every time you play the game, it'll randomly grab a different word, so that every time you play it's like a different thing. Or maybe this is the one thing you connect to a server every day, connect to the server to grab a new word. There's lots of different things we can do, lots of ways you can go about this, lots of maybe you could add in a timer function or a score function or anything like that. The sky's the limit. But this is kind of the basic working version of the game. And it's pretty easy. I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. I'm good. I'm good. How long has this video been going? Oh, it's been going for about an hour, so honestly, it took longer than I expected. But I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, keep in mind, this is uncompressed, unoptimized. We haven't packaged this up. We haven't compressed it. It's not gzipped. It's not anything. And yet, 6.8 kilobytes. I mean, right there. I mean, I've seen, I've heard about people importing and using React and jQuery for this. It's just like, oh, there's like an extra like 100 or 300 kilobytes right there. Something like this, you really don't need anything crazy. You can just kind of go vanilla JavaScript and have fun with it. But yeah, this was a fun project. It was a good waste of an hour. It kind of helped reset my mind, and hopefully you guys learned something new and enjoyed the journey. Let me know if there's anything I could have done better, or maybe I've been kind of just I'm just gonna upload this raw, but let me know if you're kind of like, Dylan, shut up. I'm sick of hearing you. Can you edit your videos to cut out the boring stuff? And I'll definitely consider starting to do that. All right, have a good one.